yeah. Look at that. Perhaps the dawn of a new era. Ah, look at that. Ah, look at that. Perhaps fit for a king? Yeah. They showed us a bit of this. Oh, wow. It is a dawn of a new era. She's not going to survive this, is she? Wow. Oh. Silence as he rips out. Oh no, she's gone. She's gone. Oh my god, look at that. Got a little tail just like Cell, the needle tail. Right? I saw a bit of this in the silhouette, but... Oh. Piercing gaze. Interesting. Nice, nice. Distinct aura as well. I was gonna say interesting head design there. I hunger. Oh wow. No! Oh. Not Peggy. Do not approach him, man. Hey. Oh. Yeah, it's not quite fit for a king, is it? Oh. Oh. Yeah, he I think he understands that, okay. The queen means quite a bit to Colt. So he's getting Colt to come in now. Come clean this off. Look at this, look at this. Oh, I love the tension. Don't. Wow. He is kind of like Cell, isn't he? You certainly see the inspiration there. The Cannibal King. Ah. This is the transfer from the queen to the king. Well, yeah, he's quite small in stature, but... Oh, I love this. My god. You know, they're not sure at all, really. And they saw something really insane just now. He cannibalized one of his own? Yeah, Colt. Maybe it's time for a reality check. Heal that man. And the queen? Yeah, don't need the queen anymore. Oh boy, oh boy. There's about to be a situation in here now. Ah, they. I think I have an idea of who he speaks of here. Yeah, it certainly looked like it was fit for a king. The outpost. Oh. He's all about efficiency, right? Don't make me repeat myself. Kind of even looks like Frieza a bit. Ah, yes, yes, iconic. Let me have a look. The lay of the land. Look at that. He let him go. Yes. You beauty. Glorious. Look at him. But again, I'm sure I'm going to get to see him get nasty at some point. Whoa. Yeah. Yeah. Montata Yuppie is special. But yeah. Right. The rare humans, right? Satisfaction. The king is here. Holy shit. Yeah, desperate times, desperate measures. But it's certainly in Colt's nature, right? It's the Kurt in him. Anything for the queen. Fiercely loyal. That loyal. And the king let him go. You know, I think that's a significant moment as well. This right here is insane as well, though. Too early, yeah. This is a bit of a shocker. Different, really different. Devils. I thought he was gonna say demons, but close enough. No name for the king, as of yet at least. But who names the king, right? The queen's not gonna name the king. The guards aren't going to name the king, so it might actually be quite interesting. Ah, shit. How he ends up getting a name, if there is a name. Just the king could be quite special as well, I think. Ooh. Oh, God. That child. Careful, never be too... The brain. Oh, okay, he's quite receptive of it. Though he knows these are his guards. Oh. No. She's so cute. Oh, wow, yeah. Interesting. Took it like a champ, though. Look at this. God damn. Whoa. Pito. Yeah. A man who appreciates strength, resilience, and maybe character. But certainly the first two. Oh, God. Yeah, he's right. He's right. Yeah, think of people like Ramot and, you know, even... There he is. Ramot. Chitu. I was trying to say Chitu. Ugh, spreading their seed. Whoa. Yeah, by force. But they already kind of decided, though. Oh. You know, once upon a time, this felt impossible. But here it is. No. Netro was hoping for this kind of approach, right? Diplomatic. Or at least build the first bridge, you know? Get a conversation going. He was hoping for this. All five. Interesting approach. I was just going to say, are they actually going to, you know, cut back to it, or They're taking the aftermath approach. And shoot. Oh. Oh shit, is Palm about to step out as well? Yeah, yeah. The Nen suppressor. They came to see them off. I thought Palm's maybe about to step out as well. Even Knuckle can't do that. Maybe in a sense. I mean, Nuff still could be right, you know? All 5 might end up in the NGL at some point. I love the lack of a score in this moment. 30 days of no Nen. Yeah, that's about to be really tough for Killua as well. To see him in this state. Oh yeah, look at the size of that. And that's that. That's great voice acting. Oh, yeah. Next steps? How did Palm react to all of it? How exactly does the whole Killua and Gon situation play out? Going back to Bisky. Man, I'm thinking about Gon's mental state. Especially once he comes across Kite as well. Naturally. Ah, yeah, there it is.
Okay, yeah, lots to get to, but let's focus on the conclusion first, because it is the wrap up. It's the, you know, it's the aftermath. Essentially, that is the approach taken here of the Knuckle Shoot Gon and Killua challenge, right? And, you know, ultimately the outcome isn't really a shocker, nor should it be a surprise. I think they've made it really quite clear, and not even just in the last episode, just over the span of the past few episodes, that, okay, you know, this is just a bit of a different level, okay? You know, Knuckle and Shoot are the types of people that are actually going to be assisting and perhaps making a difference out there in the NGL. They just have maybe, you know, a few hiccups to get over, right? And they needed someone like Gon and Killua to push them, to give them that push, right? To get them over that line. Again, you know, hand selected by Netero. He knew that these 4 are going to push each other, get the best out of each other, right? Listen, Gon and Killua might have come up short, but, you know, there's a lot of lessons there. And listen, you know, it might sting. It really might sting, and it does. You know, I've seen Gon cry before. I've seen him kind of break down before. You know, it's actually really quite similar to him breaking down in the aircraft, right? It's him and Killua. Sorry, not him and Killua. Him and Kurapika. You know, I've brought up this scene before, I think, maybe on a few occasions at this point. But, you know, it's one of the standout moments earlier on in the anime, in the conclusion of the Hunter exam arc. You know, this is... Actually, no. Yeah, this is before the conclusion. This is before they're taken to the final part of the Hunter exam arc, I believe. Yeah. You know, this is Gon speaking of his experiences with Hisoka, right? Being out there and then just, you know, being out of his depth, essentially, right? And Hisoka, you know, kind of had to give him a bit of a lesson there as well. And, you know, he put down the challenge. You know, once you can land a punch on me, then you can return this. So you see back then, really early on, you know, the type of reaction you can get out of Gon, you know, based on, you know, frustrating inaptitude, perhaps. And, you know, that's just really early on. He's had quite a bit of experience since then. And now he's kind of run into another, you know, really unique situation. And this moment, this situation actually hurts so much more than anything else because, you know, this is life and death, right? In his mind, it's life and death, and the only thing he wants is to get back in there and get to Kite, reunite with Kite as soon as possible, help him, assist him, get him out of there if need be. And it's incredibly frustrating for him. And again, it's really difficult for Killua as well to see Gon in this state, especially now that he's in a forced state of Zetsu for the next 29 days. The thing is, Gon has lost before. He has, right? But ultimately, in a lot of those situations, he does kind of come out on top, right? The goal does end up being achieved at some point, right? He has setbacks. You look at his encounter in the final phase of the Hunter exam arc, him and Hanzo. Yeah, he takes quite a beating, and he's open to a lot of pain. He's open to putting Hanzo through a really tricky situation as well, right? But through his approach, through his unbreakable stubbornness, he comes out on top, right? He's he's had setbacks against Hisoka. He's had devastating setbacks against someone like Genthuru, right? But again, in control, he made the choice to give up that arm, right? So he's had these setbacks, but ultimately, he kind of gets it done. Things kind of play out. They kind of work out, rather. Here in this case, it's a bit of a reality check. It is, at this point, this is just a little bit beyond your level. Nothing you can do here can really kind of get you over that line, right? It's a bit of a critical coming of age lesson, and it's a difficult one. It's a difficult one because the one thing he needs to do at the moment is the one thing he cannot do. Regardless of how badly he wants it, it's just not going to happen. He's not going to be allowed in, right? For now, at least, because again, I do believe at some point he'll be back at the NGL, right? Or he'll be assisting. Him and Killua, I think, are going to be assisting in some capacity at some point in this arc. But before I get to that, I kind of have to tackle this upcoming situation, because Killua tells him, for the next month, he'll protect him. He'll do anything it takes to protect him. Of course, naturally, as expected. But then after that, it's goodbye, right? And I was thinking about this, the moment it became clear. Again, not much of a surprise, not much of a shocker, but they still kind of presented it as something of a, surprise, a possible surprise. I didn't really expect Gon and Killua to actually step out as well, right? But then it kind of made sense once it happened. Once you kind of see Gon, asking Knuckle to kind of keep that promise, to see them off. It made sense after the fact, but initially, yeah, it is presented as a bit of a surprise look. Knuckle and Shoot, of course, they showed up, but then look at this set of shoes, right? Stepping on as well. So, for a split moment, I thought, oh, okay, something's happened off screen here. But yeah, as of this point, Killua means to, come good on Bisky's condition, her ultimatum of sorts, right? And leave Gon's side. Because right now for Killua, it's all about, protecting Gon from the dangers of his own perceived failings. And by his own, I mean Killua's own. So, first, let's kind of address, this possibility of them splitting up, of Killua leaving. I think it is possible that, they could split them up for a bit being the key there. Because again, I think it's a bit too soon in the anime, or, certainly in this arc as well, to have them just kind of separate forever, right? Really separate, right? Because I think them separating for good, perhaps at some point, I think that's the type of separation that might kind of have Killua. That's the type of it's the type of separation that could kind of have Killua back at the Zoldyck estate, right? As Silva kind of expected, or has See, the thing is, a Gon and Killua separation isn't really a far-fetched notion. It is going to happen at some point. I think. And, you have people like Silva, his father, who certainly believe it is going to happen at some point and Killua is going to return, right? For one reason or another, because he's my son, right? He'll return. But see, the thing is, that type of separation could be a bit more permanent, right? I don't think it's there. I don't think it's there at this point. But I think a bit of a mini separation is on the cards, perhaps. It could be interesting. To kind of, separate them for a bit. But I do believe something is going to bring them back together almost immediately as well. And the thing is, hell, maybe it's not even a mini separation. There's 30 days. A lot can happen in 30 days. Let's see. But yeah, I've got to say, I'm really quite excited for the next steps, right? Be it for Gon and Killua, be it for Knuckle and Shoot, right? I mean, if you kind of focus on Gon and Killua, okay, it'll be interesting to see how the anime kind of approaches that. Maybe it's going to be something a bit similar to the past few episodes, I suppose, right? Kind of cutting back and forth. But, the thing is, there's a big shift in this episode. I mean, one of the biggest shifts in the entire anime, right? The king is here. Even though it might be a little bit premature, the king has arrived, right? And I think the trajectory of this anime, of this arc, is about to change forever. So, I'm not sure how effective the whole cutting back and forth, approach could be now that the king is here. And, the king is going to require a lot of screen time, a lot of development, right? The king and the king's guards and, some of these other Chimera ants, Colt has made first contact. It's essentially because it's been forced, but, he's got it in him to do that. He's got it in him to make that first step, right? To ask for help. To ask for help, that's a big deal. That's a big deal that he was able to do that, right? And again, that's just indicative of, his nature, of Colt's nature. And, I'll come back to all of this, of course. I'm just kind of, touching up on a few things, right now, really quickly. Next steps for Gon and Killua, they kind of go back. They've got a month. I'm sure something interesting is going to happen in that span of time. You've got the Palm situation, and Palm isn't an afterthought. It might maybe feel like that at this point, but the only reason it might feel like that is maybe because she didn't get enough screen time recently, or she hasn't been the focus. But now this allows for it, doesn't it? And the reason I'm kind of focusing on Palm is because she is one of the students. She's Nov's student. So, she'll be playing a part at some point as well, right? Nov's bet of, all 5 showing up, and, it's great to get a confirmation on that, and, kind of getting confirmation that my speculation on that was on the right track. I think he'll be right. He'll be right at some point. At some point, all 5 are going to be playing a part in this arc. Listen, they're going to need all the help they can get, right? And this is just, this is probably not going to be enough, right? I've speculated about outside help. I've spoken on multiple occasions about people like the Zoldycks, right? Assassins for hire. So that's the type of help that I'm thinking of, right? And that was before the king even got here. That was before the king's arrival, right? I was just kind of speaking of the king's guards and the type of help Netero and his men are going to need, right? Now that the king is here, it's a different scenario altogether. They'll need help. They'll need a lot of outside help. And, that's kind of exciting. That's exciting because, that opens up this, ensemble cast get together of sorts, right? You've heard my thoughts about the nature of this arc, the scale of this arc, the threat of this arc essentially, being a global scale potentially, right? Now more than ever, it feels like, okay, maybe it's time for the ants, but maybe I'm kind of giving them too much credit as a unit. Maybe it's time for that new unit to maybe expand their horizons, and by that new unit, I mean the king and his 3 guards, because you see that it's essentially a bit of it's a splinter group, right? They've split off. They've made it really quite clear that they do not care about any of the others, right? And they do not need any of the others. It's just those three guards and the king, right? They don't need anyone else. It's as simple as that, right? And of course, that's set into motion a schism essentially, within the Chimera Ant community. And you see that Colt is really, really quite fearful of how this could play out. And that's insane, isn't it? That even a Chimera Ant itself is fearful of the things, his, his family could do. His, I'm kind of, trying to think of the term. His, his community, I suppose. I'm just kind of drawing a blank. Sorry about that. He is thinking about the things they could do, right? The chaos they could cause out there, right? On the ecosystems. And just as a whole, the things that they are capable of, right? Colt knows, but he is built a little bit different. A lot of them are really quite unique, right? And a lot of it has to do with the fact that, the buildup is different for many of them, right? The ingredients, if you will, right? The different types of humans. But at the end of the day, human nature is a part of them, right? Even though it might be all over the spectrum, it's a part of them. And it is a part of the king, right? It is a part of the king, and it is going to play a part, right? It's actually one of the most exciting components of the arrival of the king, the possibilities, right? As distinct as he is on his arrival, right? Really easy to read, right? It's not a person who is kind of unsure about themselves. The king is definitive. He arrives and you know exactly what he's about. There's nothing, beneath the surface, and there's nothing hidden. He's not putting on an act. The king is just, this definitive specimen that showed up, right? But listen, this is Hunter x Hunter. This is Togashi. This is 91 episodes in. All of us know that with the arrival of the king, you now have the potential for perhaps one of the standout character arcs of the entire anime. Just given the nature of this introduction, the nature of this character, right? The king of the Chimera Ants, someone that's meant to be a different organism altogether. Someone that is, meant to be ruling the world, according to his mom, according to the queen. Perhaps soon enough might be the late queen, right? Unless, of course, Netero can help in some capacity. Maybe they have someone they can call in. Maybe, it's a unique, collection of individuals, hunters, right? There could be someone, or more than one even, who knows, there could be someone who could help. Let's see, But again, the crucial component of this is, kind of taking that first step, asking for help. And Colt, he did it because it's in his nature, right? He'll do anything for the queen. Fiercely loyal, right till the end. And like I said, that's the Kurt in him. And now you've got the king, right? And is it possible that, a bit of someone else might be shining through the king as well? Shining is, I suppose, not the right term. Or, oozing through, rather, perhaps in this case. And of course, I'm thinking of someone like Gyro. I mean, the thing is, the whole Gyro situation is a little bit bizarre at the moment, and it's kind of beginning to feel like maybe a bit of a misstep, because listen, they made it clear that, okay, this character is about to play a major role in this arc, in the Chimera Ant arc, right? They devoted, nearly half an episode to his backstory, and it's an incredible moment. It's an incredible episode, incredible backstory. So listen, I don't think I'm misreading it or anything. They've made it really clear that, okay, this is a character that is about to play a major role. But, there's been no signs of it. Since that episode, I've heard nothing of Gyro. There's been no indication of Gyro leaking through anyone, or, there's not even a confirmation that he did become a Chimera Ant. But the thing is, that's not really even a thing that was possible anymore, because the queen wasn't really giving birth to soldiers or normal Chimera Ants anymore. She kind of moved on to the king and focusing just on that birth. So, now it's kind of about, okay, let it play out and let's see if Gyro is a part of the King's buildup. But again, that being said, I'll be honest, I hope that's not the case, because I want the King to be his own thing, I mean, I don't know how to even speculate any further on Gyro. Yeah, it's a bit of a head scratcher now, folks. I guess let's put a pin in that. Give it a few more episodes and let's see how things develop. With the King. Let's see. Early days. I only just spent one episode with him, right? And one episode gave me quite a bit in terms of potential roadmap. There's a lot of exciting possibilities there already, just based on how the King behaves. Because I certainly believe that the skeletal buildup is certainly there for potentially a fantastic character arc. Not just for the King, but some of the King's guards as well. But let's go back to my initial point, next steps. Now let's kind of shift the focus to the other side, right? You've got Knuckle and Shoot who just showed up, right? I'm excited about that. I'm really quite excited to see them around Nav, around Moro, right? Around Netro, the chairman, right? Just being a part of that group and just that dynamic. I know it's going to be a lot of fun, especially with someone like Knuckle, right? So I'm excited, man. I'm really quite excited. But again, they're kind of showing up at a really unique time. I mean, they're showing up at the beginning stages of an incredible moment in the history of this anime, essentially, or the history of the world of this anime, right? Chimera ants and humans have made contact, and they're kind of hoping to have a mutually beneficial, coming together at this point. I mean, certainly from Colt's perspective, right? He's really quite desperate. The queen is on her last legs, right? Because of the premature birth. Let's kind of discuss that in a bit, if that is going to play a part, or if that's already played a part, the King's premature arrival, right? And it's by choice. It's premature by choice because the King at that point is done. The King wants out. He's just, it feels like he's just kind of sick of it at this point. He's like, enough of this. I'll do it on my own. But yeah, of course, I'm really quite happy that Knuckle and Shoot are going to be continuing on in the arc. I'm really, really quite happy about that, legitimately happy about that, because I really took to Knuckle and then Shoot as well, right? Right near the conclusion of, that arc, I suppose, that mini arc, that mini training arc. But see, the thing is, there's been an interesting development here, right? Through Colt's approach, right? And it also kind of depends on how Colt chooses to proceed from that point on. Of course, at this point, it's all about the queen, saving the queen, right? And then, it'll be one or the other. Either, they'll be successful in helping out, right? And saving the queen, or, they might help out and still not be able to save the queen. But, my question is about after that, right? After the queen situation has been addressed, right? How is Colt going to proceed from that point on? Can't really see Colt, going back to, that king or the King's guards. They made it clear. Like I said, they made it clear they don't need any of these people. So yeah, let's see if Colt is open to even assisting at some point. I mean, it's been quite a traumatic day for Colt. It has. The arrival of the King. For Colt, it's one of the worst days of his life. I'm sure it promises to be an interesting component of the arc. Colt making contact and, Colt possibly, assisting as well. Because as showcased, Colt is more than capable of, thinking about the bigger picture, right? But let's shift the focus now. Actually, before I go any further, I need to focus a bit on Montezeupi, right? And specifically, the voice. Throughout the episode, anytime he spoke, I just, I kept thinking, okay, he sounds so familiar, right? And, that's usually a common thing in anime at this point. The more you watch, the more you notice familiar voices. So before I recorded this, I checked out the scene a few more times, right? And it finally clicked. That's Gendo Ikari, the same voice actor as Gendo. It's got to be. I mean, once you realize that, it's impossible not to hear it, right? It's him. It's got to be Gendo Ikari. I'm so sure of it. I'll refrain from actually looking it up. Again, there's always a risk of, running into potential spoilers. I mean, I'm not sure how others feel about it, but I think it's pretty fucking cool that it's the same voice actor as Gendo Ikari. But yeah, let's get to it. Let's get to the Nameless King. The king without a name, right? Big moments. It's as big as it gets, really. And this whole idea of the Nameless King, I kind of like it. Listen, I might be setting myself up, right? But I like it. I like this. I like this possibility of him not having a name and him just being the king. But listen, you also have to be realistic. I have to be realistic. I've seen enough stuff to know that, okay, a character of this magnitude, you kind of need a name. A lot of thought has to kind of go into a character, right? And a name is a big deal as well. Even beyond a lot of the story elements, just for marketing purposes as well. A name is more than likely on the horizon. I'll probably get a name, but again, the idea, just the slim possibility of him just being the king, I kind of like that. I like it, but again, it's exceedingly unlikely. Even though he is going to get a name, more likely than not. The interesting bit is how exactly is this name going to come about, right? No one's going to give him a name. Like I said, the queen is in no position or health to be giving a name anyways. The thing is, it's not as if she would have been allowed to give him a name anyways, right? They made it really quite clear that the queen does not matter to him. He does not care one bit about the queen. There's no respect, right? There's no love for the queen, for his queen mother. He discards her really quite, ruthlessly. And I mean, he does a lot of things really quite ruthlessly. He's capable of doing that, right? The thing that's really quite clear is that life, it holds no value for the king, right? He discards it at a moment's notice, and it does not bother him one bit, right? And it's so definitive, isn't it? And just because it is so definitive, just because all of his actions are so definitive and measured, right? And they almost kind of feel like, this final product almost, that alone just tells you, of course, there's going to be, a possible phenomenal character arc ahead of me here, right? Like I alluded to a little bit earlier, this is Tagashi, this is Hunter x Hunter. 91 episodes in, I've seen, I've seen enough of his writing. I've experienced enough of his character writing and his approach to, character development and progression and character arcs. I mean, I'm expecting something really quite spectacular. Like I said in the last episode, I'm expecting big things out of this character, right? And even now, after the arrival of this king, I'm really kind of sticking to my initial, thought about Roy Batty that kind of came to mind, in terms of the trajectory of the king, right? Something similar, perhaps. Now let's kind of focus on the introduction itself, right? It's essentially really a textbook, introduce a character through action approach. It's simple, but it's really quite effective, isn't it? Because it's so effective in immediately establishing temperament, right? General disposition, and also immediately allows him to, intermingle with these other character types, right? Presented through some of these other Chimera ants. And through their reactions, you can also legitimately fill in some of those details. Silence, cleanness, the food is terrible, bring me my food, this place is filthy, do you insult me? Do not make me repeat myself, right? How about that for first impressions? The Nameless King is here, and he is so above all of it. This king, is essentially genetically predisposed to rule. It really is as simple as that. And it shows. It shows. He's above it all. I mean, he really is the embodiment of pride and entitlement, right? Just absolutely ruthless. And I don't know, he just really kind of feels like this heartless tyrant at this point. A cruel king. You can just kind of see in the reactions of most of those Chimera ants, right? It's not one of pride or hope or excitement. No, 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 no. The tension in that space, a space that he calls filthy. This is the home he's born into, but he calls it filthy almost immediately. I mean, to be fair, it's essentially not really even a place fit for a king. You know, he kind of just wants to get out of there. I mean, he's so open to just damaging it. He doesn't care about, protecting this place, this nest, the place of his birth. You see that almost immediately he wants to kind of remove himself from all of this, right? Remove himself from the queen. Like I said, he made the choice to come out at that point. He was essentially done waiting, right? Bored. He's done with it, right? And the premature birth aspect of it, I'm not sure if it actually played a part in his stature, right? Because they've shown me for some time now. I've seen the silhouette. Yeah, he looks smaller for sure. But yeah, you see him beside the Chimera ants. He's even smaller than someone like Neferpito and FILMBuFF, both really quite slim and almost petite. And him speaking for the first time, he said, "I hunger." So I thought maybe, that could be a sign of the premature birth, perhaps. But, almost immediately, right after that, he speaks perfectly fine. I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? At first, it almost seems like, okay, he hasn't developed completely just yet as far as speech is concerned, right? In comparison to everyone else, because everyone else, people like Neferpito, they come out speaking just fine. So I thought maybe there's something interesting there, broken speech. But then almost immediately, he's speaking just fine. So I'm not sure if that's kind of like a immediate like fix, or I don't know, maybe it's like a subtitle issue. Maybe, it's a wrong translation. I don't know. It's interesting though that, the first thing he said feels like broken up speech, but then almost immediately it's just normal. But yeah, going back to the introduction through action approach, yeah, he makes it really quite clear that the queen does not have or hold any more power. Right? She is an afterthought. She does not mean anything anymore. And yeah, he's clever. He's quick. Of course. He sees people like Colt. He sees that, okay, it's clear that this person, this Chimera ant, really cared for the queen. He cares for the queen. And, I'm going to make him clean this. Perhaps he sees that he cared for the late Peggy as well. And listen, I've got to say, folks, that legitimately made me sad to see Peggy die in that manner. I mean, Peggy really feels like such an important component of, the Chimera ant arc, right? He's been there since day one, essentially, in the sense that, he's kind of like the go-to guy, the old head. He's a facilitator of knowledge. And yeah, I really enjoyed the dynamic him and Colt had, and then just, yeah, it's sad, man. I was legitimately really quite surprised by that death. But yeah, like I said earlier, he takes life like it's nothing. It means nothing to him. There's no distinction between, children or adults. He came across that family because he was kind of craving, or he's developed a taste for the finer things in life. And finer things being rare humans, right? The taste of rare humans and how they kind of make them feel, perhaps. The nutrition of it, I suppose. But you see that there's certainly no concept of, okay, this is a child and this is a defenseless child at that, right? It didn't even register. Listen, as measured as he seems and as definitive of a final product almost as he seems, this is still someone that is just born, who was just born and is going to be learning quite a bit, right? He's going to be having a lot of experiences. Hopefully, you certainly hope for that. And, hopefully some of these things are going to be, big moments, big character moments for him. I'm really expecting big things here. Life is simply not precious to him. It's not. Everything and everyone is beneath him. It's as simple as that, right? And the only few that he kind of tolerates, I suppose, are the king's guards. But even then, it's not as if, they're immune to it, right? He dishes it out. And hell, he confirms that he was actually trying to kill Neferpito. I actually just kind of, I kind of assumed that it's more of like a warning shot, but no, he straight up tried to decapitate Neferpito as well. But she took it. Yeah, she took it like a champ. And that's impressive to the king. I mean, that's impressive to me as well, of course, that she took it like that. Because, these shots are meant to decapitate quite easily. But again, there's that's also a bit of a showcase, isn't it? Of the levels. You've got Neferpito and you've got just the base level ants, someone like Peggy, the late Peggy, right? And then of course, humans are it's nothing. It's humans are so mushy and brittle, I suppose, in comparison. But yeah, Neferpito certainly earned his respect after perhaps overstepping just a bit, right? I thought she's playing with fire initially, right? Just because, I was almost really maybe on edge because of his reactions to someone like Peggy. And then, of course, the other turtle, Chimera ant as well. So I thought, okay, maybe, Neferpito should be careful. But then he's open to it. He's receptive to her, tips, at least at first. But then again, you see the subtitles almost give it away, don't they? Anytime, something gets cut off, something's about to happen. So the moment I saw, that word right at the conclusion or right at the end being cut off, I knew something's about to happen here. And most likely he's about to lash out, and he does, right? He strikes her. She took it. And, it makes it clear almost immediately that, okay, this king, this being certainly respects strength, right? And resilience. I guess, they're kind of similar in a sense, that she was resilient, that she took it. And, the interesting thing is that she must have known that the king knows this, right? Because some of the other ants, some of the lesser ants, I suppose they even know how to, figure out who a rare human is. So, she must have known. A part of her must have known that, of course, the king knows. Yet she still felt the need to kind of step in. I guess it kind of felt like, okay, this is her chance to, earn some more brownie points, or, kind of make this first impression on the king, or, kind of continue making this impression on the king. It almost kind of felt like low-hanging fruit, perhaps, for Neferpito, to kind of just, step in once again and assist the king. But, she kind of lost sight for a split moment. And then, of course, Neferpito taking a hit from the king, a direct hit from the king. It just once again kind of reiterates just how much of a mismatch it might be. That moment, it's going to happen at some point. People like Nov, people like Moro, they are going to have a bit of a shocking moment at some point. People like Knuckle and Shoot, once they realize, once they understand the level, once they understand the monstrosity that they're up against, right? I think it's going to be quite a moment. So, there's going to be a lot of reality checks being handed out soon enough. And I kind of alluded to this earlier on in the discussion, in terms of, character progression and arcs and all of that, and that includes the King's Guards. I think that the arrival of the king is actually going to be a bit of a catalyst for the King's Guards as well. They're going to be in a lot of really unique situations as well, given the fact that, Netero and his crew are going to be coming after them at some point, or trying to, come after them at least. It's right now, it's a bit of a mismatch, isn't it? And of course, someone like Netero has already kind of gauged it, right? And of course, a few episodes ago, there's that, I'm going to have to sacrifice someone moment, right? And my thoughts on the matter, but just because it might feel like a bit of a mismatch doesn't mean, there's not things that can be done here to make up that ground, right? All about the approach. So of course, having the chairman's assessment of the situation, it's really quite crucial, isn't it? In terms of having a grasp on the challenge at hand. But that being said, I don't think I've seen the true potential of the chairman just yet. I think I'll get to see it once, these encounters actually begin to take place. Right now he's kind of in that, let me shake off some of this rust phase. But, now some of the others are about to show up in that little pocket dimension, with a new guest as well. So, things are going to change rather quickly, right? But yeah, I'm sure I'm going to see some serious shit as well once Netero actually flexes his true potential. Once he's forced into actually, having to tap into that potential of his as well. It'll take him there. It'll take all of them there. But yeah, going back to the dynamic between the King's guards and the King, that's one of the things I'm really quite excited about. Again, the whole duty bound aspect of it, and the really unique situations that they are about to be a part of. Yeah, it's going to make for a lot of dramatic situations. But let's kind of focus a bit on just the look of the King, right? The buildup of the King. Listen, it's not subtle, is it? I mean, it's so clear that, okay, there's a lot of inspiration taken from Cell, from Dragon Ball. I mean, right down to the color even, maybe it's not the exact same shade of green, but it's there, it's there. Hell, I mean, it's a bit of a pleasant coincidence as well, because I guess it's a bit of like a cat out of the bag moment. I am recording other stuff again. But yeah, I changed the background for Doctor Who to green. And yeah, it's the same for this. I didn't change it. And it happens that this is the arrival of the King. So, perfectly timed, I suppose, in that sense. Yeah, it's not just Cell, is it? You see that there's a lot of Frieza inspiration as well there. Now, the fact that it's so, clear that there is a lot of inspiration there. It's interesting that Togashi is so open to, kind of drawing attention to that. And even the mannerisms are kind of similar to Cell, Perfect Cell, right? At least as of this point, right? The thing is, the King right now on day one, and the King perhaps near the conclusion of the Chimera Ant arc, it'll be really interesting to compare the two. Because essentially that'd be quite a shocker if there's no change at all, right? If he rejects change, anytime, the potential for change is there. Now, listen, that's not unheard of. That is an approach that, many have taken before. I've seen characters like that, that are given the chance to change, the capacity to change, the moment, and the situations to change, but they reject it. But, at this point, I've experienced enough of Togashi's writing to know that, okay, he's not going to maintain this character for the entire arc. This really definitive and one-dimensional character that's the King at the moment. Perhaps the King's guards as well. I think all of them are going to have their own moments, right? There's triggers, there's turning points that demand a bit of introspection. I think those things can happen, not just for the King, but also for the King's guards as well. That's my expectation based on the stuff I've experienced already in this anime, based on the writing I've experienced. So in terms of speculation, as far as the King is concerned, I'll put this out there. Right now, I certainly feel that, he'll go on a bit of a journey, for sure, right? Everything feels so damn definitive and just so clear cut at this point in terms of his, again, temperament and disposition, that, surely he's not going to stay like this for the length of the arc, right? That'd be actually really kind of disappointing. So I suppose, in addition to speculation, it's more so a hope of mine as well. So I believe that at some point he'll look back at this, and he'll be disappointed, right? He'll be upset at how he handled some of these things. He'll be upset at how he handled life. How nonchalant he was about discarding life. Listen, he's so nonchalant that his appendage, his tail, right? The needle tail, again, really quite reminiscent of Cell. And that needle itself, interesting, isn't it? Right? Let's see that aspect of it. Let's see that component of it. In terms of his own, special abilities. But yeah, that tail, that appendage is really quite impressive, isn't it? Because it's almost as if it's a living thing on its own. It's almost as if he's checked out, right? He's not even paying attention to, someone like Peggy or, Peggy's life. And it's almost as if his tail is kind of doing the business, right? And he's just kind of checked out and not even paying attention, right? Yes, yeah, of course, he's controlling the tail, but that it's kind of communicating that type of thing, isn't it? Right? That he's so nonchalant about it all. So nonchalant. And I do think at some point he's going to look back and he's going to regret this, or at least be sorry about how he handled some of this, how he handled life. I think he'll learn that life is precious. And even though they've established that, okay, he's a completely different type of organism that's been genetically, predisposed to rule, human nature or humanity is still a part of him. Some part of him, it is. It simply is. It's been a part of all of them. And, I've seen it on display. But yeah, human beings gather knowledge over time, right? They discover new beliefs, right? They adapt to new conditions. And he might be presented with, the opportunity to change at some point. And, and these types of changes are brought on through encounters and experiences, eye-opening experiences, right? Experiences that really kind of make you take a step back. But yeah, that's my speculation on the matter, that, he'll be disappointed with some of his earlier actions. And that, perhaps he is going to, essentially understand the concept of bonds, right? That he'll develop some of his own bonds. Perhaps him and his guards are going to have a special relationship by the end of it, right? But even if you kind of go to the birth itself, right? The king's arrival, and, even beyond that, or before that rather, the establishing shot, right? The iconic establishing shot at this point of the Chimera ant nest or castle. Though I think, yeah, the king is probably about to have his own castle made. You see that he kind of gets the lay of the land as well. There's a lot of open space. Perhaps he'll have his own thing done. But the thing is, he doesn't require, he's not even open to kind of, using any of the Chimera ants anymore. But yeah, the birth itself is just brutal, isn't it? It's messy, it's aggressive. He just tears her apart, right? It's a lot of really intense imagery. It is. And, the voice acting, initially at least, the queen being in that type of pain, it's not something easy to kind of sit through. Right. And that's by design. That's go voice acting. It is. Oh, also, I kind of forgot to mention a little bit earlier, after Peggy dies, they kind of cut to that really chill ant, right? He's really quite surprised. It cuts back and forth, right? It's the book, the bloodied book. And, it's quite the image, isn't it? Right. Because again, like I mentioned, he's been this facilitator of knowledge, Peggy, that is. So, to see the shot of that book and the blood all over it, yeah, it's a bit of a, I don't know, really sad image, isn't it? But yeah, interesting that it cuts to him specifically as well, right? Let's see if there's anything there. But also, let me kind of focus a bit on Montetayupi's moment, I suppose, right? He sees the graceful exit of FILMBuFF. But yeah, he sees that exit, right? He sees FILMBuFF fly. And, he thinks, okay, that looks interesting. That looks like fun. And it was around that time that, it really started to click that, okay, this sounds really familiar, actually. And then he proceeds to just, I don't know, morph his anatomy and just grow wings, right? And he starts flying. Yes, he'll need some practice. But the fact that he can just do that, the fact that he can just kind of adapt, right? At such a physical level, that's a bit of a game changer. And game changer in the sense that, if he wasn't already going to be a formidable opponent, right, for the other side, now it's become even more of a tricky task, given the unpredictable nature of the things he can kind of, do on the fly out in the field against one of these opponents, or against, who knows, multiple opponents even. It could come down to that. Needing multiple people going after just one King's Guard. And also, there's a promise, right? Promise me, Knuckle, you'll save Kite, or you'll bring back Kite, right? So that aspect is going to be at play as well. Knuckle certainly is the type who is going to do his best to keep that promise. But, that's the thing. The thing is, Knuckle and Shoot might actually come across Kite before Gon. And that's a whole thing on its own as well. That aspect of it, how Kite's going to be, reintroduced into the story. I got a glimpse of Kite and aboard Neferpito. So now, it might actually end up being, someone else having to tell Gon, okay, this is maybe not the person that you remember, right? Depending on any, possible reunions in the near future in terms of, Gon and Killua coming back into play. So yeah, maybe it won't be as shocking as I initially thought, Gon coming up against Kite or coming across Kite and finding out. It might actually be a case of him finding out through someone else, but still, being more about, no, I need to see for myself. I'm sure, he'll recognize me, that kind of thing. That could be a play. Yeah, Knuckle is certainly going to try his best. So, that tells me that, okay, I might see an encounter with Kite at some point. But yeah, I think that should do it for this one. It's a big moment, not just in this arc, but in the anime. But as far as this arc is concerned, it's certainly a case of, before the king's arrival and after the king's arrival, right? But to sign off, I just kind of want to touch up on Colt once again. He's a man of ethics. I'm saying man, but you get my point, right? He's got ethics and morals, and he's essentially doing his best to keep the Chimera Ant's impact as a whole, as controlled as possible, right? He's got that in him. But yeah, if you enjoyed that, consider dropping a like, consider dropping some comments, give me your thoughts. If you are interested in early access or timer-based full length or full opacity, consider checking out the Patreon page. The links are in the description and the pinned comments. There's also links to social media if that's your thing. But yeah, thank you so much for joining me, folks, and thank you for your time, because time is precious. It really is. And I do hope to see you again soon for episode 92. Until then, take it easy.